Hello and welcome to IT Chronicles 10 in Tech. My name is Carlos Casanova. I'm here with my co-host Kathleen Wilson. Kathleen?
Hi.
And Shane Carlson.
Hello.
And today we have Gerry Sweeney from Hornbill. Welcome, Gerry.
Oh, welcome. Hello.
So Gerry, obviously anyone that's been in the service management space, they know the name Hornbill. Depending on where you're located in the world, you guys had a pretty good footprint, but a lot has changed in the last 2-3 years or so in terms of your direction, your product, and your platform. A lot of strategy changes that you guys have gone through. Tell us a little bit about what's been going on the last few years and some of the progresses that you guys have been making.
Sure. Okay. Well, I would say that our footprint hasn't actually changed that much. We've got about 650 customers globally, so we are still around. I guess we're probably not as active in our marketing endeavors in certainly in parts of the world. So that comes down to a change we made very consciously. Just to take a different approach. We were finding we were getting very tied into put into a box really in the industry because everyone had their pink certifications. Everyone had every process covered. Everyone was doing ITIL. And what we found is we were trying to innovate solutions using technology to solve problems for customers. But a lot of those solutions wouldn't necessarily resonate with the boxes we're being put in. So we just felt we were very constrained by the way we were being guided by the establishment. So that really drove a change. We looked at two areas. One was the commercial innovations, changing the way people were buying this kind of software because it's true, as we know, it's traditionally very expensive and it takes a long time and all that kind of stuff. So we wanted to do something about that. But also we wanted to recognize the things that we could see in the industry that we wanted to improve for our customers. And we know that, ITIL and best practice is all very important, but actually it's teams and people and communication between those teams and people that actually makes all the difference. So we built a technology really that underpins that, to kind of force our hand to think about what we were doing differently. So that's what we've been doing, and we launched that in 2015, the beginning of 2015. So we're 2.5 years into it now, and it's been really, really a good call for us, albeit it's taken a lot of effort and a lot of time. And sure, perhaps a lot of disappearing out of the market because, as you mentioned, it's quite difficult to do something different in a market that's established and has an establishment keeping the framework in place, as it were.
Yeah, so sort of self-servicing establishment too, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right.
So, Gerry, like when you're positioning this with customers, because that's a new way of doing things, because they'll go in and if they're going to implement Hornbill, they'll want it to look like their past service management tool and behave like their service management tool. So, what's the approach that you tell customers? You need to continue doing this, you need to stop doing this, and start doing this. What are the 3 things that you would tell customers?
Okay, so we start with everything we've built is around collaboration. So we start there, and we look at it from a very pragmatic point of view that if you're people that are providing support and service, which extends way beyond the service desk now. We can talk about that in a second. But if they're providing service, it's really critical that they actually share information with each other and communicate and are empowered to communicate. Too much information in IT and business generally is locked up in email, right? And so locked away in people's inboxes. So we focused on building a tool that in many respects coerces a user of our solution to communicate. They don't really have a choice, and so that's the first thing we tell is you start with communication. The second thing is business process. Best practice is all well and good, and for those practice managers or those people that go on training courses to learn and are actually capable of running and defining a sophisticated business process. The truth is, the vast majority of people that we were the industry, I sound like I'm part of the establishment now, but we were sending everyone out to get their ITIL foundation training, right? Then we're bringing them back into the office, sitting them down and say, off you go, let's be ITIL. And of course, the majority of those people, A, didn't really understand what they were trying to achieve, the big picture, but B, didn't really care either. And so what we wanted to do was create a differentiator, a complete sort of segregation between the business process, which is really important for you to orchestrate so you can have repeatable processes that just work. But then you want your people that don't necessarily need to understand the details of the intricacies of that process. They just want to use it. And the analogy there is, people buy Microsoft Word and they type documents. They don't look in the code to work out how it works and how it saves to a disk. So we were thinking about it like that. So a complete segregation of business process and then human and automated tasks. That's the second thing. And then the third thing is our commercial positioning. We're a SaaS business. We sell our software as a service. And I hold dearly true that, a SaaS, the whole economic promise behind a SaaS business is we will attain economic scales of economy. Then we'll pass that cost back on, that cost saving back onto our customers. The reality is most SaaS companies that are being successful, they need to drive shareholder growth, so they continue to grow, and actually their prices go up and not down. And the general perception is things are very expensive, and you see typically in the industry, particularly at the higher end of the market, it's not unusual to see 10% 3-year increase, 3 or 4% a year annual increases on average. And these companies have whole teams of people that are geared up towards doing that selling. So we wanted to change that that way of doing business, and so we implemented price for life, which is basically it's price grandfathering. So if you're familiar with that, once a customer subscribes, they're fixed to a price list which never increases. And that means that, that as we improve the product, we're treating our customers like investors in us. The subscriptions they're paying, anything we build. For example, we just recently built what we call iBridge, which is a cloud-based platform for doing integration with cloud services. And most of these platforms are getting sold for anywhere between $500 and $6,000 a month. Every single customer that was the currently subscriber get that free for life. So that's an example of how price for life works. And then the other thing we wanted to do is, that we used to recognize these long drawn out projects. We didn't ever want, or I didn't want from our sales team, our salespeople selling promises of the future. So we've implemented what we call a 30-day switch on, which is effectively a free trial, but it's more than that, because during that 30 days, we assign our customers a dedicated product specialist, and we walk them through an entire training program and implementation program. We import their data, we connect it to their business systems, we train their people, we get it up and running. We do all of that remotely, we do it free of charge and without any contractual commitment whatsoever. And then at the end of that exercise, even if they're not going to go live, because a lot of our bigger customers, of course, wouldn't go live after a simple 30-day trial, they've got enough to make a judgment about whether they want to subscribe to the solution or not, and then we can work with them. And so it's those kind of commercial differences that we've tried to put in place. And the final one that we wrapped up there is absolutely no contractual tie-in. So fairly typically in the industry, you'll get signed up for a year or 3 years or 5 years, even in some cases. That all happens in the sales cycle. We have no that commitment once you sign up. We bill annually for practical purposes because of the nature of our customers. But if a customer decides not to use the service anymore, they simply terminate the service, and we write them a check for anything we've over collected, and shake hands. So it's a very simple, frictionless commercial model that makes it viable for customers to kind of look differently. Now, the truth is, when we tell this to people, we're mostly met with, well, we don't believe that. Where's my watch? It's almost like that. What's the catch here? But we've done it for over 100 customers now, and some very small customers and some very big customers. So we know it works. So those are the things that we're tackling, and that is different to what everyone else is doing right now.
Excellent.
Very different. Thank you.
Yeah.
So let me ask you a question here. You mentioned collaboration in the first part of that answer, and I know you guys have coined the phrase collaborative ITSM, which kind of really moves towards a lot of the democratization of work that we're seeing kind of trending across the industry, where bits and pieces of work are being kind of farmed out and worked on collaboratively, rather than in a series of parallel or serial tasks that are typical in an ITSM space. talk to me about, where you see the industry going with that collaboration and people being able to jump in with expertise and work on things rather than waiting for a task to show up in their inbox and, to trigger them to do work. What does that look like?
Okay. So what it looks like for us, I mean, the best way I can describe it is we recognize that you'll have a team of people that are working on, problems, their incidents that are coming in. And so the first thing we have, first of all, just so this makes sense to you in context, every object inside our system is a collaborative object. And what I mean by that is a ticket, you can follow a ticket, or you can follow a person, or you can follow a group, or, that kind of thing. And so if you're all familiar with Facebook or Twitter or anything like that, you know that if you follow something, stuff relating to it is going to make its way into your newsfeed, and so the information is going to find you. So that's a pretty key concept. So now, often you're not going to be following a ticket that you, as a third party, needs to provide additional help. So there's lots of mechanisms we have in place for dealing with that. So the first thing is targeted communication. It's very similar to Twitter. So you do @Gerry, make some mention of me, and even though I'm not a member of that ticket, it kind of notifies me and gives me a link, and I can come back in and contribute. So that's a simple example, and there's many examples around how the system works that makes it very different. So it's not a ticketing system in the traditional sense. It's collaboration first with ticketing wrapped around it, and that changes things not only between your team members, but when you extend that out into your community, into the people you're supporting. We don't do it really today particularly well for all sorts of reasons that we're kind of changing, but there is this notion of peer-to-peer support, which is truly enabling other people to help each other, because as we all know, if you've got a problem with your iPhone, you don't ring your service desk, you ask your colleague who's got an iPhone and say, what do you do with this? So that's where collaboration really comes in place. And that's why it's important that it can't just be a bolted on thing. It has to be at the foundation of what you're doing.
Yeah, and we're definitely seeing the shift in the industry, kind of in work in general, moving towards more of those systems of engagement rather than systems of record, things like Slack, where people are, just jumping in to work on these things. So excellent. Well, Gerry, thank you very much for hanging out with us today and answering some questions and kind of bringing us up to speed with, where you guys are going, where you see the industry going. And we hope to come across you in the industry again very, very soon.
Yeah, thank you. You're welcome.
Thank you, Gerry.